My grandfather used not to be interested in worldwide things, but often when we went into his backyard, it was a very small backyard, then he said, when we dig a hole here and we keep on digging, we end up in Australia. That's what he said. So as kids we like to dig, of course, but to make things very clear, we came by aircraft. Because it would be a huge pile of sand in the garden of my grandfather, which we wanted to avoid. I'd like to read with you one verse to begin with, and it's in John chapter 5, verse 19, I think. And it says, Jesus gave them the answer, I tell you the truth, the Son can do nothing by himself. He can only do what he sees his Father doing, because whatever the Father does, the Son does. For the Father loves the Son and shows him all he does. It's a basic verse in the Bible. But to talk a little bit about our situation, I used to be, and you can ask my wife after the meeting, I think I used to be a nice Christian. Some of you look surprised, but if you get in touch with our church, I used to be a nice Christian. I came to Jesus in the 70s, 1977 for the young people among us. Before 2000 there were also still ages, so I met a beautiful girl in the 70s, and I was very interested, and she was belonging to the Jesus people. I don't know whether you know it, in those days you had the flower power, you had Woodstock, and you had the Jesus people, and she was a part of the Jesus people. Now, I was not so interested in the Jesus people, I was interested in this young lady, and so she took me with her to the Jesus people. I gave my life to Jesus, and well, we've married now for already a few years, for 40 years, and it's fun. And I mean, the Jesus people, they don't have real churches, they had groups. They rented a big house and put a lot of furniture in it where we could sit and praise and worship. And I was a nice Christian. I was very happy with knowing Jesus forgave my sin. I was very happy knowing He is the way. It took me years to realize to where He was the way. I mean, He was the way to the Father, but I didn't know. I was not interested. I just knew Jesus is the way. And I became an elder in the church. It had nothing to do with my age, and I don't think it had to do with my quality. Maybe it had to do with the fact that no one else wanted to do the job. I don't know anymore. But I became an elder in the church, and I was doing quite well. Every Saturday afternoon we went to testify in the city, and I tried to be there. We were tithing, we were doing all the right things. This testimony was a very interesting thing. I mean, every Saturday from 2 to 5 we testified. We brought the good news in the city, so we came first to the church, very nervous. Then one guy or girl would go with you, would go with the two of us, and then we would go on the street and tell the people about Jesus. We were so stressed. We tried to talk with one another, we tried to tie our shoelaces, we tried to do busy with everything because we didn't want to speak with people, we were afraid to do this. We brought good news, although it was not so good news. Later, when the new church started, we asked the people after a few years, do you know what it is to evangelize? They said, no. So we said, just keep it that way. Because they didn't know how to evangelize, but they were a living testimony of what the Father did. So I was a reasonable, good Christian. I had some sins which I could hide very well, which I will not tell you. I struggled with it. Sometimes I was not sure I would manage to get in heaven. Sometimes I was not sure God was interested in me, but I just went on and went on and went on. And but after a while we started to realize there must be more. And we looked for more, and I'll make a long story short. We written a book on this. It's Healed from Cancer, and it's a little bit different than the most books you read about healing. Most of those books, they are men and women of God. They did the right thing. They stood on the word. They cursed the disease. They walked on water. They did all the good things. And when I was sick and when I got this cancer, I was just afraid. And when I read the books of these men and women of God, they were able to do things, so they were for me the super Christians. And then you had, on the other hand, the losers. And I thought I belonged to the second part, because I'm not able to do all those heroic things. And then the book should have been called Healing for Dummies. Because if you once want to read this book, we don't write about how brave I was, but how afraid I was. I was afraid to die. I was afraid to miss God. I was afraid not to get in heaven. I was afraid. And I got healed. So I was this more or less good Christian, and we wanted to see whether there was more, and we ended up in South Africa, where we saw a lot of signs and wonders, which was great, because we hardly saw them. I mean, I remember in our church, a guy got the flu, and we prayed for him a week long, and he was a week long in bed, and after 1 week he was miraculously healed. You know, more or less. So we believed everything that was in the thick book, but we couldn't, we hardly saw any result. And when we went in South Africa, we saw so many wonders, signs and miracles. It was amazing. We didn't saw it, but this one pastor had a story that he was spreading the Lord's Supper, and they have had churches, 1,000, 6,000 people in one church. The home group was, I don't know, and he was giving the bread for the Lord's Supper, and then one guy pulled on his jacket and he said, "I can see." You're a pastor, I'm a pastor, so you have weird people in the church. In this church, not of course. Is the word weird?
Weird, yes.
I'm sorry, I don't know English very well. I'll do my best. Where was I? So the guy was spreading the bread, and the other guy pulled his jacket. He said, "I can see." So how does a normal Belgian pastor would react, or a South African pastor? He replied, "I can see too, but I have still 365 people waiting for a piece of bread." So he went on, and day after this day, Monday morning, this guy stood in front of the office of the pastor. He said, he had a medical file, and the medical file said he tried to commit suicide, and he wanted to shoot through his head, and he aimed wrong, and he shot his 2 eyes out. And not during a great healing ministry, not during special prayer for him, just accepting the piece of bread, and he said, "I can see," and he kept on seeing. We have this God of miracles. Later we had this experience in our own church with extremely things. But we came home from South Africa, and we thought we'd bring revival with us. We bought an extra suitcase, we filled it up with books, with cassettes. As you know, for the younger generation, they are data carriers from a former age. And we thought when we opened the suitcase, we bring revival into Belgium. But very soon I got ill, I got a kidney crisis, I got a tennis elbow, never played tennis, I have no clue about this. And then I got a little growth in my mouth, and I wasn't going quickly to the dentist. We men are never afraid of dentists, but it was too expensive. So I didn't go to the dentist, but after a while I got a lot of trouble with my mouth. I couldn't eat hard things anymore, no apples but I didn't care. But I couldn't even eat French fries anymore, and that's for a Belgian a major thing. So I couldn't eat them anymore, and I went to the dentist, and he looked in my mouth, he gave me antibiotics that didn't work, he gave me other antibiotics that didn't work, and it appeared to be cancer. I was 27 years old, my son was 7 months old, and I was this good Christian. And I was just, as we all, this doing my best, doing extra my best, doing my best so Father would see me, so he would think I'm the good guy. A little bit like the older brother from the story from the prodigal son. So when they discovered I had cancer, I needed a lot of investigations in the hospital. They said the reason could be your kidneys, so you have 70% chance to live another 5 years. Imagine my son was 7 months those days. So, and they kept on searching and searching and searching, and then they found out it was a lymphoma which was incurable. And I know that moment I had to come to the professor, and he said, "We can't heal you anymore." I said, I hope I still have a year. He said, "I can't promise you." I said, "I hope I have another 6 months." He said, "I can't promise you." I said, "I hope I have another 2 months." And then he didn't reply anymore. So we both went home as good Christians, and we cried, until that day, I thought I knew it all. And then you come home after they said, "We can't promise you another 2 months." And it didn't seem to work. It didn't seem to work anymore. And I like so often when Christians say, "I'm not afraid to die because I'm going to heaven." That's what I said always. Until the doctor said, "I've got good news, you can go." It was not the words he used, but we always say, "Oh, in heaven and Heavenly Father," and sit on his laps, and I like him, and hallelujah. And then they say, "Okay, you can go now." And I don't know how your reaction will be, and I hope you will never have to have this reaction, but I was afraid. And that's what we see often in the church when your pastor speaks on more of the Holy Spirit. Who wants to experience more? We all go to the front. If he says who wants to healing and who wants to be healthy and heal the sick, we all go to the front. And if he speaks next Sunday about heaven and he says who wants to go, no one comes to the front. And that's not normal, because we are so eager to speak about him. And I saw there was such a difference between we call it the manual. That's the manual. If you buy something, you need a manual. So and I saw my life wasn't fitting in it. It happened that I woke up in the middle of the night after a nightmare when I saw our roof was in wood, and in the middle of the night I saw this roof coming down and becoming a coffin around me. And I had a lot of those dreams. I'm not going to explain it now. And I started to realize that the reality of my Christianity and the reality of the world was on a big distance from one another. Because I started to doubt whether there was a God. I started to doubt whether when he was there, I would manage to get in heaven. I started to doubt when God was there, whether he would notice me. And it became a very hard journey, and which I want to make short, but it took a long time. I prayed to God, and I said, "God, Father," I didn't call him Father, I said, "God, you have to heal me," because we looked around in Belgium to see whether there were people healed by miracle, by God through a miracle, and we couldn't find anyone. We just found one person. I mean, in Belgium, 11 million people, imagine. We couldn't find anyone who was healed by God, so we were looking for someone and couldn't find anyone. So one day I prayed and I said, God, you have to heal me, because I might be the first Belgian who is healed by you, but I don't mind. and we called it, and some of you heard the story, we called it the pancake prayer. Because it was a prayer who went up, pancake, you all know pancakes, I suppose. And you have the thick one, the thin ones, but in Belgium, they try to have as thin as possible. I think every family has a contest with the other family. The thinnest pancake, you put this stuff into a pan, and then it bakes on one side, then you put it on the edge of the pan. You're still with me?
Yes.
It's not in the Bible, so if you want to take notes, you put it on the edge of the pan, and then you throw it up, right? And then it turns around and comes back in the pan if you're good enough, if you're handy, and if you're not wearing the name Hugo. So Inger doesn't want me to make pancakes because I threw them up and they don't come back. Well, they come back, but not at the moment I want and not on the place I want. So Inger decided no pancakes for me anymore. But the prayer was like a pancake. It went up, it went to the ceiling, it stuck to the ceiling, it had to go through to go to God, but it didn't, and then it fell back on the floor. I learned for myself there were three kinds of prayer. One prayer is you pray and get the result right away. You pray at the moment and you go out of the door, out of the church at one time, and you see your pink Rolls Royce. That's a prayer which is heard right away. You have prayers in which you hope the Father will hear you, but I had prayers in which I was so sure He ignored when I asked. Another day I said, you have to heal me for the medical world. Because when they will see this miracle, they will turn to you, and then they become Christians, and there will be a revival. And I prayed this prayer, it went to the ceiling as all the other prayers, it's sticking to the ceiling a few minutes and it fell on the floor. No reaction. I thought this is a good prayer. I mean, this is, I could help God with the strategy, but He didn't seem to be interested. So one day I said, you have to heal me. I was losing power. I used to be athletic. Then you're friendly that you don't start to laugh. Sometimes people start to laugh. What I have here now, I used to have here. But because of wrong exercise, it ended up on the wrong place. But I was quite athletic and I lost my strength. I mean, I lost 10 kilos within 1 month. I lost my capacity to walk. I couldn't wash myself. I couldn't dress myself. I was really in bad shape. And then I said, God, you have to heal me for my family, because I'm the only Christian in my family. And this is something which is normal in Belgium. When you become a born-again Christian, you're most probably the only Christian in your whole family. So I said, Inger is the only Christian in her family, I'm the only Christian in my family, so you have to heal me for the family. They will repent and the revival starts through the family, but no response. And then after a while, I thought I found the right prayer. I said, God, you have to heal me for my wife and my kid. I might not be the best husband, but I'm the original one. I might not be the best father, but I'm the original one. You have to heal me for my family, for my wife and my kid. I mean, this is prayer what's touching. I mean, if someone would come in and would ask you to come and pray, in such a case, you would leave the church, you would go right away, because, I mean, you can't say no to such a prayer. If you see this little baby, and so I thought, this is the prayer which brings me breakthrough. I prayed the prayer, it went to the ceiling. What do you think what happened? Just 2 people react. Mostly, I understand you don't react, because if someone comes and speaks, he always asks you the wrong answer, So I understand, but it fell down. So I started to get tired of praying, to get tired of getting no result, to get tired of a good Christian which couldn't reach the goal which was necessary to receive from the Father. And then one day I realized, I read a lot of books, of course, and then I realized God needs to heal me because He promised it in His Word. And it's, if you would rip out all the pages which are dealing with healing, then you would have just a very small book left over. And I read it, I thought, no, God needs to heal me. He has to heal me because He promised it in His Word. I didn't pray this prayer right away, but I started to get peace on the inside. And then I didn't pray this right away. It took me a few days, and then I went to God and I took my Bible with me. I thought, He's God, but He's very busy, so I'll just show Him, remind Him to the verses. And I took my Bible and showed Him, and I said, God, you have to heal me because you promised it in your Word. And what do you think what happened? I mean, this is the right prayer. This is the prayer we are taught in so many books. God, you have to do because you promised it. So the prayer went on a speed you can't imagine, to the ceiling, and it pressed to the ceiling, and then it was going through, and it didn't. And it fell down on the floor. And I knew this is my last prayer. If this doesn't work, it doesn't work. Now, many of you also, people who are watching at home, think, you're not right. I remember there was an interview, and after the interview I got a telephone call from a pastor. He says, when God makes a promise, He keeps His promise, so you can't have your pancake falling down, but I had it. And the reaction of God was a little bit comparable. We as parents, if we promise our children an ice cream, and the child is pulling on your trousers the whole day and says, I want to have it now, I want to have it now. What do? Do we give it right away or do you wait? Belgians wait. Because when the child says, you have to do it, I don't have to do it now, you know? And you wait, but you give it right away, I suppose. No, you don't. Okay. And it was in the same case. I didn't know what to pray anymore. I thought, that's it. I rather wasn't a good Christian, because there is no result in being a good Christian, as far as I thought. And then God spoke to me, and He said, I don't have to heal you because I promise it in my Word, but I'm going to heal you because I love you. And He could have said anything. He could have said, become a missionary and I heal you. Then I would have said, okay, that's a deal. He could have said, give me your car. And, well, it wouldn't benefit him. But okay, if I would have said, give me your car, I would have said, okay, give you all your life savings. I would have said, okay, it would be a deal, but there was no deal. He said, I heal you because I love you. And I was shocked. And I can imagine you are shocked. I can imagine you might not be happy with this story, because the first thing when I talk about this, people think, what about my relatives who died? Did He love them? Of course He loved them, but we can't change the past. We just can't go on with the future. And what with the future? And I would encourage you to keep this message today between you and the Father. It has nothing to do with someone else. It's like in an aircraft. Before you start, the flight attendant shows you what to do, and then they say when the pressure goes away in the aircraft, you get this mask. Put on first your mask, and then you can help the others. If you start to help the others in advance, then you get into trouble. So it took me a very, very long time before I realized Father loved me, and before I could grasp it. You know, everything you need in your life, we base it on faith. Do you have faith enough? You might not have faith enough. You need to build up your faith. You need more faith. And we all talk about faith as if it's I don't know. But if this would be so important, when do you have faith enough? I don't know. If this was very important for the Father, He would build in a faith meter in your body somewhere. And when it's in the red, you don't have faith enough. When it's in the green, you have faith enough. It's not a matter of do you have faith enough, but it's a matter of do you realize Father loves you so much that you can't have faith enough to believe you will stay sick. You understand what I mean? If you start to realize His love for you, you won't have faith enough to believe you will stay sick. And it was a whole journey, starting to realize He loves me. I couldn't... give me a reason why God would love me. Thank you. I have the same thought as you have. Why would God love this guy? Because he lives in Belgium. No, because I make good chocolate. No, he doesn't make chocolate. Because why would God love me? I have no clue. So when I have no clue, I think He has no reason to love me. And when He has no reason to love me, I can't expect miracles from Him. And that's the moment we start to mistake and we don't get anymore what He's promising us. If we read in the Ephesians letter, it says in chapter 1, verse 1 or 2 or 3, just you have the whole afternoon to look it up. It says, for He chose us in Him before the creation of the world. You are chosen before the creation of the world. We thought of some after a meeting, we said you think we are... You came from us, but we are just playing a second role in the whole story. I mean, I said to him, God wanted you before we were there. God wanted you before Grandpa and Grandma were there. And He wanted you before great Grandpa and great Grandma were there. He wanted you before He said, "Let there be light." He wanted you. So when people tell you, when your parents tell you, well, you've been a mistake, but we accept you as you are, then they make a mistake. Because Father wanted you to have, as we see in John 10, to have and to live in this life in abundance. He loves you. I give you a short example. When I'm pastoring a church, and every now and then a young lady comes in with a pram, and all the other ladies stand around and they look into the pram and they say, "Oh, beautiful, oh, look at it, oh, nice, oh, beautiful." And then as a pastor you're supposed to go and have a look as well. And I must be honest, I had not so much relationship with babies, so I wanted to go through all the ladies, and then I looked into the pram, and you know what I saw? A little wrinkled human being. I had not a feeling, look how nice, look how beautiful, look. I just got a little wrinkled human being. I was more interested in the wheels of the pram. Because I thought, I'm happy some guys understand. Because if they don't need the pram anymore, I can get the wheels, and I can make a little cart with it to use in the garden to put my vegetables in or something when I'm working in the garden. So this was my interest. They never gave me the wheels, by the way. But I mean, it didn't mean so much for me. Those little wrinkled human beings, and they only cry. But then one day, Inger got pregnant, and then our son was born. 3 weeks too early, coincidentally. I never have seen such a beautiful child. And from the first moment he looked very wise out of his eyes, and he had 5 fingers on the right hand side, 5 fingers on the left hand side, little nails, he was perfect. And then I would like to ask you, what benefit do children give in your life? Practically. I can't think about something as well. 1, you're losing your hobby room, right? 2, every now and then you have to wake up your wife because your child is calling her. You know? You're losing your partner for a while. You know the price of diapers? So what is the benefit of having a child? Practically no benefit. But you see this child and you love it. I don't know why. You know, I loved some because, I know why, because it was the most beautiful child I ever saw. It was the most wise child I ever saw. But he had a problem, he was not growing fast, and 99% of the Belgian children are born in a hospital. And the doctor or the nurse came and she said, he's not growing fast enough, we have to bring him to the heated room. It's not an incubator, it's a room which is warmer than the others, and then they put babies in the room with 6 or 7, and then they have to be there for a while. And they took some out of his little bed, and I panicked. I thought, I just know my son for 1 day, maybe already 2 days. I just know him, and take him somewhere else, in a place where there will be more babies. I won't recognize him again. I mean, and you had no time to put a little mark on him. So they took him and they went away to the next floor. I was shocked. So I couldn't go with them. I had to go through the patient's stairs, and I went up. And before I was allowed to go in the room, they put you had to put a white coat on and a white hat and this corona thing. And it was not yet corona, they invented it before in Belgium. And I was allowed to go into the room. I recognized him right away. Between all the other kids, I saw this is my son. So I went to the bed. I thought a little bit father and son bonding. So I went to the bed, I took him and I threw him in the air. And then all the nurses came running into the room. And I thought they wanted to see this beautiful baby, but they wanted to talk with me. He's 36 now, or 36. He's in good shape, just like, you know. But something changed in my life. I changed from a good Christian who just was always not getting his goals, not getting the promises in the Word. I changed from a good Christian, a reasonably good Christian, to knowing I'm a child of the Most High God. It changed everything. You know, and when this one guy in the Bible is possessed, and the sons of Scevas come, and they're going to set him free, and they have to run away because the demon is much stronger than them. He says, I know Paul, I know Jesus, but who are you? And this was a sentence I often heard in my ears. This man of God and this, but who are you? Who do you think you are? It's a question, circumstances, Satan, everyone asks to us, and it's in our mind, and it's in our mind, and it will keep us away from healing, from whatever God has for you. And those questions in my life stopped. They stopped on the moment I started to realize Father loves me because I'm his child, not because I'm a good one. And if this voice comes back and says, who do you think you are? I said, I think I'm Hugo, and I'm a son of the Most High God. And who do you think you are? Speaking that way to me. And the voice stops. And that's my wish for all of you. My wish is not that you start a plan to change Australia. But my wish is that we all start to realize more and more what a Father we have. And then not your action, but your being will definitely change Australia. And that's my wish for all of you.
If you are new to the church or visiting for the very first time, can I encourage you to fill in one of the welcome cards that you received as you came in this morning? Up and coming services. This afternoon, starting at 4:30, we'll have a special prayer meeting with Hugo and Inger, meeting at the Orty House. Please refer to our website for more information or speak to Marg or Glenn.
Empty nesters. That's those of you who no longer have children living at home. You have been invited to lunch at the Royal Mail Hotel. If you would like to attend, please contact Joe MacArthur or Marg Bovey.
On Sunday the 12th of May, we'll have a special Mother's Day service, cafe style. This year, you'll be seated around tables. Please come early to ensure you reserve a space. This service will include communion and interactive messages and music. On Sunday the 19th of May, we'll have our service of reflection again, starting at 10 a.m. with Rev Kids and Youth Connect, speaker Natalie Stoner. Directly after this service, we'll have a toolbox training session for all our stewards, starting at 12 p.m. In the evening on Sunday the 19th of May, we'll have our prayer meeting, online only, starting at 7 p.m. Please refer to our website for Zoom link details. On Sunday the 26th of May, starting at 10 a.m, we'll have a special baptism service. This will be a great opportunity to hear the testimonies from those getting baptised and a message from Kathy Pittman.
Raising up the next generation of leaders is definitely one of the great joys in ministry. This is a pop-up college hosted in your local church. It allows you to train and develop people within your local context. Of course, Alpha Crucis brings world-class teaching and training just for your people. Alpha Crucis supports in marking and assessment so that your church leaders can focus on the application of the word and discipleship. Give your team the biblical foundations and practical skills that it needs to support your community. Start a local church college and let's raise up the next generation of leaders.